Here we go. We are live on week 5, I believe it is. Thoughts on organizational culture. What are the types of cultures that we have witnessed in the workplace, and can leaders influence or shape culture? Since I'm moderating, I'll go first this time. A lot of this, or a lot of my experience, obviously comes from my current employer. So, my thoughts on organizational culture, we get it pounded down our throat constantly on conference calls, all the print that we get sent out, emails from our upper leadership. And primarily ours is based on safety and efficiency, because I work for a utility and our two commodities are gas and electricity. So, they're two commodities that if aren't handled properly can kill you. And we've actually had events in the past, not all that long ago, that have been semi-catastrophic and loss of life and all that. So that's always been, in my entire career, has been at the forefront. I think a lot of times, though, especially with where I work, you almost go tone deaf to it because it is constantly pushed. So it's hard for our leadership to keep it fresh, so that way you don't just block it out on a call or you don't delete the email. So that way you stay engaged, and it's really the leader's job to keep their employees engaged and seeking new ways to be safe, and to reach out and then get input from the people that have the boots on the ground, the people that are actually doing the installs, working with customers, and then also sharing that information with the customers. That way, they don't dig over gas or electric lines and stuff like that. But when I was looking at it here, it says, can leaders shape culture? And it was on page 246, and it says the leaders shape the tone of the organization. They're the stamp, they're the founder, they're the catalyst, I guess, for lack of a better word, as the change agent. They have to react to challenges within the workplace. And like with us, when an event has occurred, those leaders have to be quick on their feet. They're dealing with the public, and they have to come up with solutions that are sometimes out of the box or outside the box, and adjust the culture of the business. And with a business as big as ours, I mean, we're a Fortune 500 company. We're $14.5 billion in value and 20 some odd thousand employees. I mean, it's a big ship to turn when an adjustment has to be made. So, they have to be dynamic. And the challenge here is those that can't adapt and change are the ones that die. Those are the businesses that you don't see around anymore. And they made the remark in the text where many of and this isn't necessarily a direct parallel to where I work, but many manufacturing and industrial companies that didn't change how they do business or the culture of the business, they died out. If they weren't willing to be dynamic and grow with the industry and grow with customers and change the way they do business, not necessarily manufacturing their widgets, but how they engage their employees and thereby engage their customers, they're the ones that don't make it. And learning for them was the key. Like, you have to stay current, prevalent, or you go by way of the dinosaur, you're gone. I think that's what I have for that. Let's see, I guess I have Donna, is that you on my left?
Possibly.
All right. So what's your take on organizational culture?
Well, Josh, I actually had a question for you. The amount of information that you get and the employees get from the leaders kind of pushing the culture, does everyone believe that the culture is being lived in the company, or are they just words that are being driven to you guys?
And that is a great question, because when I was hired, and even my first few years with the company, the guys that do the work, so our troublemen, our linemen, our gas crew guys, they live it. They absolutely live it. They have no choice but to live it because they want to go home to their families. Whereas we feel there's a separation between those folks, and I do design work, so I design the stuff that the guys put up. There's a separation between us and the upper levels of management where it feels like there's a detachment. They don't quite get how operations happen on a daily basis. So it feels like empty words sometimes, but they don't really have any choice but to espouse those beliefs, because if it doesn't translate from one level to the next, all the way down to the guys that are shoveling the dirt, then the organization won't work. So they kind of have to say that. But yeah, we definitely, from time to time, feel like we're getting lip service, but you know, they're doing their best, I guess. We know on our end though that the safety culture and then even the sustainability culture, where we have huge solar arrays and all that, it's how business is changing now for utility industries. If you don't have that mindset going forward, you're gonna go by the wayside. You'll get split up and so on and so forth.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so, and to that point, I've worked with different companies that have such a different belief structure and that culture. A company I worked for almost 10 years, they referred to all the employees as partners. They had values, they had mission statements, but there was no structure or substance behind those. At the end of the day, you were left to your own demise to make your store the best you can make it underneath of the leadership that you had above you in those CEO, COO representation. So I do believe that a leader can create a culture within a small team that I had to do throughout different companies. Working for Starbucks now, there's substance behind the words that we're given. We are called partners because we are part of the company. We are, the amazing amount of benefits that we get are ridiculous, including the fact that my schooling is being paid for right now. But there's an actual belief behind the mission and the values that we have. One of the things I noticed with the Zappos video that we were shown on the YouTube, the values that they had, there were a lot of them. There were a lot of values that they had to live up to. So they had a great culture, but there's so many different values that they're trying to live up to. It looked like even their staff had a lot of trouble even trying to recall what most of them actually were. So there's just that fine line and balance in between that creating of the culture, having a memorable amount of values and missions that you're really gearing yourself toward. But I do believe definitely create a positive culture within the team environment.
And I find it interesting that Starbucks refers to their employees as partners, because there's obviously every organization has terminology for their employees or whatever. Disney has the same thing with their folks that are in the parks. They call them cast members. They're not employees. And you know, well, we spent a fair amount of time there with my kids, so yeah, I've grown to not call them Disney employees. I've always referred to them as cast members as part of their culture.
So their culture is kind of, yeah, trickled on to you.
Oh yeah. Well, we go several times a year, so yeah. Well, very good. I like that. I've had many classes with other folks that work at Starbucks, and I'm always curious to hear how it works on that side.
We'll get back to whenever I'm up. We'll have on my end. Don't worry.
All right, Eva, I've got you up next.
Well, I have somewhat of a similar experience as Donna. I work at the Arizona State University Foundation, and we're more into philanthropic efforts for, you know, trying to get money from our donors or community members, you know, to help for research, for student scholarships, professorships, and what have you. And as far as can leaders shape the culture? And yes, absolutely. I jotted down a few things. I believe that leaders are able to shape the culture as the leader's behavior sets the tone for the overall, not only higher up, but like with Donna, within your immediate team. A leader needs to align with the culture, model desired behaviors, to model the desired behaviors. Also to understand their role within the culture, within the organization itself, and to utilize their role to promote positive changes. And to connect with their teams, not only their minds, but their hearts as well, and align them to a common purpose. One thing that I really enjoy about the organization I work for is when we have an all-staff meeting, it kind of takes on that Zappos feel. There's a lot of fun and games. We start with like an interactive game or a game show host, and then it's not only fun, but it's a learning experience for the rest of the team, the rest of the organization. And we talk about any births, any graduation successes. We just kind of really encourage. It's an encouraging environment, and then we go into business, I guess. But the language within our organization is very positive. And one thing that we do see a lot in branding and even spoken to not just ourselves, but with our donors is together, our potential is limitless. And it's spoken of quite often. And it's a shared vision. It's a shared vision among all of us. Let's see. Another thing is that the culture that we have are building relationships among each other and with our donors and the community. So it's a very, it's a great place to work. They provide tools for each one of us to reach our potential, both on level and a professional level, and they support that. I know that our executives they're very much dedicated to promoting a healthy work-life balance to ensure that we're healthy, happy, and that in turn provides a more productive employee for them. So that was my bit.
Okay, I got a question for you. It spoke about about values and how in the book it says generally the values are based upon what we should do or what we ought to do. So do you feel, well, yours may be a somewhat unique situation because you're part of a philanthropic organization, but maybe this is like a broad question for everybody. If we weren't held socially responsible for our actions as companies, do you think that they would still have what we should do and what we ought to do for our customers be a high priority? Or do you think that they would push certain responsibilities to the wayside for the almighty buck? Would they say, yeah, screw that, we don't need to be responsible, we don't need to conduct ourselves ethically if it means we're going to make a few more dollars? Do you think companies would tend to do that?
I know that with us, we would not. And I know that the people that fill our position there, we all share that vision and that mission, and it with sound ethics, and not only within the organization at work, but outside of the office as well. We truly feel that just as on the video, one of the gals was like, I saw $40 in the machine, and because someone else wanted cash back, and she's like, oh, well, I could keep that, but you know what, I'm gonna wow someone and make them happy and return it to the cashier. That's something I would do, not just because it's what the organization would do, but it's just how I feel personally. How would I feel if someone took my money?
Sure.
Yeah. So that goes with me.
I also think it's really amazing hearing you speak about working with Arizona State University. I don't know how many colleges that Starbucks tried to pair up with, but the mission, the values, the culture is what created this partnership, because they saw that the college had the most in common with the desire to create a strong community and a better person. So it's amazing to hear your absolute, like, sincere, like, passion for working for the company. So that's perfect. It's really nice to hear. So thank you for your thoughts. And then also for your question, Josh, I think the social responsibility of organizations and corporations is something that, for the adapting capacity for organizations, they may have been able to get away with that a while ago, maybe even like 5 years ago. But now you hear one thing happen that is against what society really wants as a whole and more humane aspect, and consumers are not going to have it any longer. You see more companies and corporations coming out with statements about their beliefs, about their morals, about their visions, and if they don't, they're going to lose their consumer base fast. So I think that's one of those adaptive capacities that organizations have had to do, and if they don't, it's just like falling behind in a technological aspect. You're not going to be able to survive in the future, especially in the society right now.
For
That's
sure.
a valid point. Yes.
With as connected as we are, and as quickly as information passes, you can't afford to not be. And then we'll look at Facebook right now. They're doing serious damage control, losing people left and right.
Mm-hmm.
That stock price is diving. But very good. I like that. All right, Heather, you're up.
Okay, it's funny that you guys talk about Disney, because that's my example, because I worked at Disney for a year, and that's why I'm moving to Florida in 3 weeks, is to work at Disney again. So it's very interesting to kind of talk about Disney's culture, like coming from it, because I started as a frontline cast member, and then I moved into management, and the culture is drilled into you. I joke that, like, it's like brainwashing, because you're so told to always be smile, safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency are the 4 keys that Disney uses. So you have to kind of be on top of those at all times. And with that, like, when you're in the front as like a manager, it's easier to kind of put a stamp on an organization's culture, because you have that ability. The guests, like Josh, like, they're there, you interact with them. But now I'm transitioning into a corporate role, so the culture isn't going to be the same. I'm not going to have that hands-on really communication with people, so it's not going to be the same, because you have to be that way frontline. But I'm really interested to see how it changes when you're behind the scenes, because we could say all we want, like, oh yeah, like Disney magic, blah, 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 but we don't have to do it. So I wonder, like, if higher up, is it actually the same way, or is it kind of just an image that you're putting out? Because a lot of the times with Disney, like, there's a lot of things that people don't know about, and I'm not going to spoil all the magic, but like in Florida, there's the minimum wage debate right now, where like people are living out of their cars, and Disney's supposed to be this magical place that really cares about people, and a lot of the times they don't. So everyone sees like the smiles and the magic and the happy kind of go lucky part of Disney, but the culture doesn't always actually add up. So another big company where like Eve can talk so greatly about it. I love working at Disney. Like, it's Disney, but also like it is difficult sometimes, because that culture isn't consistent throughout the different levels of the company.
So do you find that so obviously we've all grown up on Disney movies and Lion King and so on and so forth, so obviously it's a magical place for kids and families and so on and so forth. And you as a frontline cast member, you got to experience interaction with those families. Do you think that people lose sight of the fact that it is a business sometimes, and maybe that's the differentiation between being a frontline cast member and then going into management? You're going to see the other side of it, where, look, at the end of the day, you're cutting checks for employees, there's maintenance on the park, we have to pay you your utility bill, and so on and so forth. So you kind of detach a little bit from the magical part of it, and it's like, hey, it's a business. Like, we've got to do this, or we have to close the gates.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because people, they come to Disney for the story it tells. You don't feel like you're spending money at a store buying merchandise. Like, oh, it's a tangible memory, which it is, but it wouldn't succeed if they weren't making money. So that's definitely like a really big thing. And everyone's like, oh, Disney has so much money, blah, blah, but they're doing so many things. They have 6 parks. They have so many different things, Adventures by Disney, like the Aulani in Hawaii. Like, they have expenses, and people forget that, which I think that also causes a lot of the problems. Like, if everyone in Disney making minimum wage were to make $3 more, that's 75,000 people. That's a lot more per person per hour. So, yeah, it's magical, but it's a business. So it's, especially Disney, I think it's hard for them to find that balance.
Nice.
Very understandable. Yeah. All right, Max. Let's get your input here.
Well, surprise! I am talking about Starbucks this week. Oh my God, we saw that one coming, right? My goodness. So yeah, very similar to Donna. Starbucks. We have our missions and values that we always try and live up to. We are all called partners. I don't want to, go over everything she already talked about. So I'll focus on a really cool example that I like to talk about. Our old CEO, no longer our CEO, Howard Schultz. Everyone knows that name now. He had this really unique vision about what it meant to have a great company, how having us be partners and not just having us be employees made a really big difference. And I was actually just talking about this with one of my new hires last week, talking about how our roles are a little bit more elevated because the company expectation and the missions and values are just like, they're set so high. But we're also still such a positive environment that's trying to make the best in each other. And that's one of our missions and values is we bring out the best in each other. And that's a really big portion of our company because we could talk about how we want to grow our business all day, left and right, and no one wants to really hear that. But when you start talking about growing each other over growing the business, it becomes something else. And that's one of the main reasons, like Donna said, that we actually teamed up with ASU because we're not in it just to give people a free education. We're in it to genuinely make people's lives better. And that's one of the, if you ever have the opportunity, I highly recommend. Starbucks has their introduction to ASU, and how they talked about how partners are going to start getting free college tuition, and people were genuinely crying. It's life changing, and your company is the one that's creating that change. They're trying to change the stigma in better things. We can do better things. Here's proof that we're actually going to go do it. So we create this really positive environment where you have people that are getting a college education. You're having part-time employees who get free education, part-time employees who have full health benefits. And all of a sudden, because everyone's so positive and everyone's so happy, the company is successful just because you have elevated employees, if that makes sense. And that's just something I always like to talk about. We have we have so many benefits and so many great things in our company that we elevate our partners, if that makes sense. And that's my example.
Do you guys ever find, obviously, the vision statement of your organizations, when in the instances where it doesn't feel like they line up with their actions, have you witnessed people becoming kind of disenchanted or disenfranchised with the organization as a whole? And then you have to kind of build them back up and say, hey, it was just a momentary occurrence, or is the damage done? And they're like, peace out, I don't anymore.
I feel like I've seen both ends of that. I've seen partners who will maybe just have a really bad week. Maybe something's going on outside their life, and then their company isn't able to support them in a proper way. One of my partners got really, really sick, and she had already used up all of her, technically speaking, a benefit. Even though here in the state of California, we have a little bit higher standards for sick pay, but she got sick and she had no more sick hours, and she had no vacation hours, she had no personal days, and she was like, "Look, what am I supposed to do? My company's letting me down." And I'm like, listen, I get it. It's hard, but unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do. As much as I want to support you and I want to support you as a person, unfortunately, I don't have any options. And she actually ended up quitting, and I was astonished because in my eyes, it was something so small, but it was something so big to her. So we always talk about supporting our partners and supporting each other, but sometimes we're going to fall short, and unfortunately, sometimes we're going to lose people. Now, on the other hand, I've had partners who who were like, I mean, like actually personally, I was really struggling right before ASU was introduced. I actually dropped out of a local college here because my grades were just slipping, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh God, what am I gonna do? I can't do school. School sucks. And then, Starbucks was like, oh hey, here's ASU. Try it out. And I've been doing it since day one. And all of a sudden, I get this huge turnaround because my company was recognizing a problem that's happening in America where people are either A, struggling financially with school or just struggling in school in general, then to find alternative options. And they gave me this alternative option, like literally at the perfect time. It couldn't have been any better. And, here I am today. So.
Well, yeah. And organizations are there to improve our lives personally and within the organization, but there's only so much they can do. Yep. Like with us, I can understand that happening. She wanted to take the time off, but we have another benefit. We have a variety of benefits, and one of them is that people can donate their time off for instances like that, which is an amazing benefit. So if you run out of time, cool. You can take from that pool of donated sick time, vacation time, bereavement, or what have you.
We have the same thing.
That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard.
Yeah, that is really, really cool.
We have something called the Cup Fund. You could donate money to it, whether it's rounding up on your partner purchase, whether it's donating out of your check. And so if someone has a life catastrophe, I remember one story that it was a family of 4 had their house burned down, and the Cup Fund helped pay for the hotel stay and also helped pay for them to put a down payment on a new house. So there's that, but the simplicity, it's not even simplicity, but never even thinking of donating time. I'm a store manager, and it's my own doing, but I don't get to use all my vacation time every year. And if I don't use it by the end of the fiscal year, it's gone. And what better way to help other people out than say, well, I couldn't use it, so here, you use it. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, I'm literally same here, Donna. I think I've used maybe 3 sick days in the past 5 years. I would love to just be able to be like, here you go. Just, you're all good.
Wow, Max, that's impressive.
God, I wish.
Listen, sleep a lot. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
We call those mental health days out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or shopping days. Let's be real.
Yes.
Well, guys, does anyone have anything else you'd like to add?
Great discussion today.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's convenient that we're all gainfully employed and can draw on current life experiences, because it really adds. It'd be hard for an 18-year-old who's only ever worked maybe part-time in their life and can't draw on the experiences like we have.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then I'm going to stop the broadcast.